Many of us would know what it's like to sit before a great roaring fire. And some of us, like myself, love to sit near a roaring fire in the evening, and not in the Brotherhood, when I go out, of course, on a fire and sipping port and a bit of chocolate. Just great. Some of us like to have toast. We put a bit of bread on the fire and, on your potbelly stove and get a bit of hot cocoa happening, hot chocolate. Or some of us like to toast those great marshmallows by the fire. And when we stand around a fire or sit around the fire, we talk story. We share stories, we sing, and it's just a great communal building exercise, isn't it, to stoke a fire. To keep that fire burning, you have to have the right wood, the right kindling, little twigs, as you know, the right amount of heat and fuel. We all know what it's like for those of us who are fire starters. We know what it's like, or Boy Scouts, Girls Guides know what it's like to build and keep the fire burning. You see a bit of fire going out, so you put another log on the fire, don't you? And things like that. Fires seem to draw people together. And one of my fond memories up in Darwin was what we call campfire nights. And we had a big backyard like we do here in Sydney. And at the back, we'd put this big bonfire and we'd gather around. The kids would be playing cricket in the backyard, make sure the ball wouldn't fall into the fire. And then we'd sit around the fire under the moonlight, the stars, and talk story, cook a bit of damper, broil a bit of fish that might have been caught by some of the locals. Always a great time coming together at campfire nights. And we would keep the fire burning by singing and telling stories and just enjoying each other's company. So I'm just selling that a bit, that if you do go to Darwin, you have to go to a place called St Martin's Aboriginal Community, which is where the MGLs are, and you'll find these campfire. If you happen to be there on the campfire night, get there. If you don't, go to a mass, because you'll find in the mass the fires are burning with hospitality and great healing. In fact, I've been sharing stories throughout the whole week in this Indigenous week, and one of the stories I've been telling about is, as a group of people used to go down in the bus in St Martin's, catch a bus from Darwin to Alice Springs, about 1,500 kilometres down the track. And I'd take a whole bunch of elderly people with me, because it was often during the week we'd go downtown to Alice. And it was a funny experience, because we do it, sometimes a year, and it was always the thing of keeping the fires burning by sharing our love as St Martin's people, the elders of St Martin's. They would practice their healing and hospitality in remote areas. So we'd go down the bus and take with us oils. The Aborigines love tangible, so they love little oils to receive oil on the head. We bring holy cards with them and maybe some things like presents and things like that to keep the fire burning. We'd spend a few days around there, and the way we do it, we end up in town, and we had no agenda, just a bunch of us in the bus would be driving around town, and we'd see someone on the veranda. Oh, look, there's someone on the veranda. Let's go there and pray for them. And so we turn up, here's this non-Indigenous chaplain here, Father Brian, thinking, oh, it's a bit scary, just walking up to someone's veranda and saying, we're going to pray for you. But these people were just so bold and they walk up, and they, oh, we're from St Martin's community. Oh, yes, we've heard about that in Darwin. We would like to pray for you. Yeah, sure. Wow, people are just so open. It would so be often we would sit behind on the veranda, among the beer cans, mind you, and other things that are around the place, and among the blessings and the lawn, just sitting out with people, praying for them out in the open, praying for anything that would they to pray for. So they pray for family or healings, and the faith of the people. So we sing a song, give them a bit of oil, a holy card, and head off to the next one on the veranda, or someone looking down and out. We go and approach them. Keep the fires burning. See, this is what Jesus is calling us to do, isn't it, in the gospel? Isn't it interesting? He tells the disciples to go out, but, when we go out from our home, what do? We think about, okay, we've got to go out. We've got to go to church. Have I got my wallet? Have I got my keys and my phone? Whatever else we need to get. But Jesus says, go out, get out of your own comfort zone, and go and preach, go and heal the sick, and go and cast out devils. But mind you, don't bring your wallet, nor your keys, nor your phone. No bread, no suitcase, no haversack. You can bring sandals, don't bring a spare tunic. Wow, that's amazing. These preachers, itinerant preachers, will send out And all they were told was to go. Go where? Go to villages, go to towns, go to the lady on the veranda, go to the person looking down and out. Just go. And what to do? Cast out devils, he says, and heal the sick. I've been wondering, why, Lord, would you tell the apostles and you're telling us to go and cast out devils? And then we are reminded, aren't we, that God has come to advance the kingdom through Jesus. And we see in many stories of Jesus' ministry, devils are cast out because Jesus is regaining territory that is God's territory. Our lives are God's territory. Our homes, our land, our peoples belong to God. God loved the world so much that he could see it in a bit of a mess, so he sent his son to save the world. He doesn't hate the world, he loves the world. It's the world he created. But he kind of shakes his head sometimes and thinks, oh my goodness, what a world we live in. And so he sends us out to reclaim territory. And by doing that is casting out Satan. And we might think, well, that's okay for the exorcists in our diocese. That's okay for maybe the holy priests. Maybe that's okay for those who have that ministry. But what about me, normal person, and how about me? Well, look at Amos. Amos is very similar in the first reading. The priest said to Amos, look, we don't want any of your business here, no Bible bashing here, go back home and earn your bread there. We've had enough of you here. And Amos says, I was just a shepherd. I'm a farmer. I'm just being obedient to God. God said to go, and here I am, I'm going. And Jesus calls us to do the same thing, to go. So how do we cast out devils? I think, it's by lending a listening ear, or maybe giving an attentive eye, or a lending hand. Because there are so many of us that are around in our circles that are influenced by the enemy. They're so oppressed, so heavy burdened, so issue-laden, of life and what life gives to us. Bearing the brunt of life is so difficult. And like my friends in Darwin, we have to go out, and to bring a kind word to the lady on the veranda, to the one out in the street. And maybe it starts in the veranda of our own homes. In our own homes, there's people among us in our own families who are feeling a bit oppressed or influenced. We can cast out the devil, figuratively speaking. We can lend them a hand. We can give them a kind word or love. And then Jesus says to go and heal the sick. We know we have communion ministers among us. We pray for some of them during the week. But they go out to nursing homes and hospitals and houses to bring communion to the sick. And you might think, well, that's okay for those people, those special ministers. Or maybe the priest, who goes and anoints people in hospital. But what about me? I'm just a normal person. And then, like Amos, we hear the call to go, to prophesy, to prophesy, to speak a kind word, to speak a word of deliverance, a word of peace, a word of love. So many people in our lives, in our society, our own lives, we're filled up with constant negativity and criticism. And for someone to come and heal us, heal our sickness, our negativity, maybe it's our physical sickness, our mental sickness, by someone affirming us in who we are, that we are God's beloved. So we've got some work to do, and Jesus tells us to go, but first we must come. Before we go anywhere, we must come. This is why we've come here today at Mass. We've come here at Mass today to receive Jesus in Eucharist so that we can go and prophesy and cast out the devils and heal the sick. And one way that we keep the fires burning in our parish, of course, is through Alpha. And so, again, we're launching it very soon, this Alpha program. It's a great way where devils are cast out and there is healing. In fact, one of the sessions, I think a few of the sessions in the Alpha program, talks about living among evil and how to deal with evil and how to deal with, healing in our midst. Great topics and a great way to keep the fire burning in our heart, to be equipped to go out and to send. So let's hear that invitation to go out and invite others to Alpha, and their lives will be forever changed as they recognise God's blessing and grace of healing and strength. But first it starts with us. Today we will receive communion, allow that fire to be stoked again, that we can go out and meet those people that Jesus is preparing us to meet this week. We go out in peace to love and serve the Lord.